educational types of things, and the only thing that I was going to...
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Ross, I'm very happy that you consented to participate in our first oral history series of interviews at Jackson State College. And this is, as you know, related to the development of black educational institutions in the state of Mississippi and their significance. Both of you are Piney Woods graduates, is that right?
Right.
So, how have you spent your life? That is, what types of work have you been involved in?
Well, for me, after I married, I taught 1 year after I left Piney Woods School. I had to take the state examination, and I passed, and I taught 1 year at New Hope School. Then I married and started my family and came back to Piney Woods and worked there for 14 years in the homemaking department. And there I had charge of the girls' industry, sewing, cooking. And at one time I was just a supervisor for the girls' industry. And of course, I lived there for 15 years on the campus until my son got out of high school. Then moved to Jackson, and I worked in the state school for the blind 14 years. And of course, I kept busy with my family. And
Were you connected with the State School of the Blind at Piney Woods?
No,
It was
just
central.
after it was moved to Jackson. I had charge there of the girls' homemaking. And I served as a dietitian, you know. You had to carry on too.
One of the originators, not originators, but the beginning of the School of the Blind, because they knew her from Piney.
Oh, I see.
So she was one of the original teachers.
One of the first.
Teachers in the School of the Blind.
When the state took it over, it was Piney Woods, you know, for a long time. But it was under the direction of Dr. Jones and just the welfare department. And when the state took it over, they moved it to Jackson, and I was hired there. It was long kind of to help Mrs. Fox, and I had charge of the foods in the homemaking department for the girls.
Well, that's very interesting.
And after that, I worked with one of the government programs as nutritionist for the state up in the poor area of the Delta. And with that, I got a different concept of life, seemed like, because those people were in such desperate condition. You just wouldn't thought that people lived as they lived, and kind of in this day and time, because they knew nothing but farming. And when they took that away from them, there was no other avenue of work that they could go into, and they just had to sit there and you live on the little commodities that was given, and they wouldn't give them any work. Said, let them die. You go in an interview with them, that's what they would tell you.
That's sort of a sad story.
It
was sad.
It was real sad.
Now, Mr. Ross, what kind of work have you been about?
I graduated from Piney Woods in 28. And then we went initially to go to school at A&T College in Greensboro. Then I didn't stay. I got married before I went to school, and I figured I better come back and look after the wife.
Yes, sir.
So then I came back and worked at Piney Woods for a number of years in the plumbing department, which I had graduated from. And then the school got in desperate need, and they asked for volunteers to go to California. So I took a group out there during the winter and raised money to get food, etc. And then after coming back, I my wife said to me, well, in order to get started in your plumbing, maybe you could go work with my brother. He works on the lakes until you get some money to get started. So I went and started with U.S. Steel and on the Great Lakes as a cook. Well, I started as a porter, and then I worked up to be a cook. But after I got in there, and there's plenty to eat, of course, I didn't go back to the plumbing. I stayed there for 34 consecutive years and retired from that position. But in the meantime, I held as at Piney Woods General Superintendent of Boys Industry. And at the time that my wife had the Home Economics Department, we furnished the beans and potatoes and squash and that she can. And so for 1 year, through her efforts and ours, we preserved more than 13,000 quarts of stuff. And since I don't believe they've done quite so well, they've done well. And then, in the meantime, I have, through the years, given my time down in the winter to assist boys and girls in learning the trade. One that I assisted has become a butcher in one of the big meat packing companies. And another has a pretty good job as a cook. And others, two, I guess, have good jobs as cooks. And others have fallen by the way and done other things.
Yes.
I had good experience with Piney Woods School because I had contact with people who knew, people who had been successful, and there's a word we call success at least. And they were mostly white people, but they were the ones who had made Piney Woods possible. And of course, the way I got to Piney Woods was through a band came down to my home that printed at Monticello, Mississippi. And I liked the sound of the music, liked the people. And my school teacher, I was 8th grade, although he was an alternate, but he suggested I go to Piney Woods, that they had more to offer. Piney Woods is unique in that it filled a need that was very void when he started Piney Woods School. There was no high schools, only in the larger cities for blacks. There were, even elementary school was 4 to 5 months, depending on what time the crops were ready. And there was the idea that it wasn't necessary to educate blacks anyway. So Piney Woods filled that need. They gave us an insight onto what else could be done. And I always think of one quotation that he keeps around the campus now even. Plant patience within thy soul, and I have used that as a sort of a motto as I've grown. And I don't know that any other place would have done so much for me. I got to travel and sing. I got to meet, as I say, even the president of Nigeria, and things like that.
Was the president of Nigeria at Piney Woods or someplace else?
He came to Piney Woods.
Oh.
And I got to meet Ralph Edwards, who got This Is Your Life up for Dr. Jones, raised quite a bit of money. And then a number of people that are known nationally and internationally we met at Piney Woods School. These, of course, gave us encouragement to do bigger and better things. And I have been contacted as going back to Piney Woods. I don't know if I'll go or not.
Yes, sir.
But now I'm retired. And
Now, what did you to do after you left Piney Woods? What kind of work? Is this when you worked
I
at
went to cook for
the
U.S. Steel.
U.S. Steel. Oh, I see. I understand.
And in cooking for U.S. Steel, I still did not get out of Piney Woods' hair.
Yes, sir.
Because usually people ask you where you were from, what school you attended, and many times I was mistaken for a college graduate where it was just high school. But in talking with these people, we found people who had been donors to Piney Woods. That's the way Piney Woods is kept up. And one man said, well, if this is my dividend, he says, I'm going to increase mine. So many of the donors have increased their amount of donations to the school through my efforts and through my serving among the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
So consequently, we've worked for Piney Woods even though those 33 years we were not directly connected. So Piney Woods has done a lot to me, and whatever any black has to say about black schools, I think they prepared us to carry ourselves in a gentlemanlike way better than some of the bigger schools. They taught us honesty, they taught us to be on time, which was a very neat thing among us, and they taught us to be frugal. That is, we could learn to live where many of the students nowadays couldn't, because we didn't always have everything we needed to eat, but we lived. So I think Piney Woods has done a great deal for my family.
Go ahead. You want to say something?
I would like to say how I came in contact with Piney Woods School, and I was up in years because the school opportunities in our county were so limited. Piney Woods sent out a group to our church to give a play.
Now, what church is this?
This was at New Hope Church and School down at Zionel, between McGee and Mount Olive. And the group stayed with us. I believe it was three of the boys spent the night with us. And Mrs. Jones was there herself. And of course, she told me she wanted me to come to Piney Woods School. And I was a big girl, 18 or 19, 4th grade, and we had a field day and she came down, and I had tried to learn a lot of things with my hand, and in that day she picked out, I think I won 3 prizes. Well, I had a prize on everything that I had, and that is one of the ways that I got into Piney Woods School. Piney Woods helped the boy and the girl who could not help themselves, who didn't have any money. I didn't have a penny. And she took me, and I learned many things. She taught us honesty. She had her master in arts, and she carried us right along. I went to night school a year, but I was able to catch right on to my class, and I went right on from there the next year. And I feel that Piney Woods have helped more girls and boys in the state of Mississippi and other states than most any other school, because it gives us a chance where we didn't have a chance. Yes. And it always taught us honesty, along with the curriculum. Each boy and girl had to take a trade along, something that they could learn to do with their hands, because they said every boy and every girl wouldn't be able to go to college, but they would be able to know how to make a living. And another thing of Piney Woods, I think even maybe the private schools have over the public schools of the larger school is a discipline. They don't have so many children there that they can't see them. It's more like a home. And they take the children under their wings and try to guide them and help them. And they don't have as big a discipline problem as we do in some of the other schools.
Now, Mrs. Ross, before you went to Piney Woods School, were there any other options? I mean, any other schools in your home community?
Not in my home community. There was a little school there. Oh, it went after 4th grade, and the teachers that were there teaching, they were not even good 4th grade students. They just picked up anyone, that could read or write a little to teach. And the county were not sponsoring. The people maybe paid that man $12 or $15 a month to come in and teach. Yeah, wasn't more than 3 months. But after I left, they did build what they called a Rosenwald School. One of Piney Woods graduates worked in that county, and they put up a Rosenwald School, and that school went to 8th grade.
That's interesting. And what about you, Mr. Ross? You mentioned earlier about there probably not being any other schools in your area, and I just wanted to get that on tape.
No, there was. There was an elementary school that one time we had a graduate of Alferdteen who was a very good teacher, and then at other times we had an 8th grade who was our teacher. And of course I do say this, that for one of the 8th grade teachers, she had a great bearing on my life, because she was a good disciplinaire, and I have to give her credit for that. And I think going to Piney Woods just opened up a whole avenue of everything that I just didn't quite understand that these things were. So I think. Oh, yes.
I was just going to say that the school that was in your community only went to the 9th grade. Is that right?
8th grade.
8th grade. And at Piney Woods, you could get a high school
Yeah, that's
education
right.
that was accredited this time.
I don't know about the accreditation, but at least we could get a 12th grade education.
Yes, sir.
Somebody asked whether these schools would be of any profit. No, I think so. They have a place. They do not have a place of providing high school education for the mass of people like they used to have. But they do have a place of providing a high school education plus a chance to do something with their hands. It's non-sectarian but Christian. And I think these things mean a lot. And whereas we don't think too much about them, but it's those Christian fellows that sort of make things go once they're outside. And two, I think, Piney Woods just has the knack, the know-how that keeps people out of trouble so much. And, so I think that's one of the great things about a black school. And I hope that more of these schools could be endowed so they can continue.
So that Piney Woods' future is pretty well secured at this point relative to finances.
Dr. Jones told me that if they took in no more money whatsoever, that Piney Woods could go on a cash basis forever.
Well,
So
that's good to know.
He has done, he was very unselfish. He has put whatever money people gave to him in that school and built up his endowment. He's a great promoter. And that has helped me too, to watch how he promotes things. So many times when we have something, we promote it one week and then we forget about it. See?
Right, that's very true.
But he has continuously promoted that thing. Even now in his 90th year, he's still very active.
Very active, yes, sir. Could we talk a bit about the reputation of Piney Woods School? Let's say the reputation that it had when you went there, as well as the reputation that it has today. Maybe we can start out with talking about what kind of reputation it had when you went there.
Statewide, I think Piney Woods had a very good reputation when I went there. They went directly to see, to get in touch with the people in the state of Mississippi. And then coming from the state of Iowa, he had other places that he got in touch with people. He was I think they only graduated in his class, and of course, black. And naturally, these white people helped him to get in touch with others.
Right.
In fact, one man gave him the first 1,600 acres of land that they had there. They had a batch of timber down in that area, and when they cut the timber, they gave the land to Piney Woods School. And the reputation, I think, that's nationwide. We have a group of Mexicans down there now, and a gentleman who was taking his daughter to Canada for a Catholic school had been contributing to Piney Woods because he had seen Piney Woods in his story in the library in Mexico City.
Oh.
So they stopped by to see Piney Woods, and then the daughter wouldn't go any farther. She said, "This is where I want to stay." So consequently, they had quite a few Mexicans too.
Oh, so they've just begun to, people in Mexico just decided to send their daughters up.
Yeah, so quite a few. He has lots of pictures of those who graduated. I was there when the first group came, and I recall I was cooking there in the wintertime as my little help. And he said, "Now these kids can't eat what we eat. They don't know how to eat. So just let them come in and cook the way they want, and maybe we get to know what they need and what they want and what they'll eat." So I did. And this first girl that came and then was in there trying to cook, she now has sent even her granddaughter back to Piney Woods.
Oh, I see. That's really, I always wondered why the Mexicans came, and why
Well,
they had girls and no boys.
Well, there's some boys too.
There are some boys who come now.
Not as many.
Mhm.
And it seems like the families down there have more girls than boys, maybe. But anyway, then the next time that I knew Piney Woods was really advertised, when we had the President Tubman, I believe his name was, from Nigeria.
Tubman, Liberia.
Liberia.
Right.
He said he had seen Piney Woods in his story in the library in Liberia.
Oh.
So when he came to Washington on official business, he said he had to see Piney Woods.
Mhm.
And he and his wife were there, and he said, "Of course, I can always now say I'll come back home to Piney Woods."
That is really fun.
Then there were others that I could probably mention that were nationally known who've been to Piney Woods, because Jones had a way of promoting this thing so that the best people all over the world would know about Piney Woods School. And,
I think that is really true because I keep hearing people say,
Yeah.
that Piney Woods is known worldwide, and which is very important. Now, Mrs. Ross, did you have anything about to say about the reputation of Piney Woods when you first went there?
Well, the reputation of Piney Wood was very, very broad, and seemed that everybody spoke very highly of Piney Wood. And many children, parents, wanted their children to go to Piney Woods because of the reputation that it had. And it was, Piney Wood is known in Mississippi as well as United States because of literature that was sent out. But Piney Woods made contact with the local people. They went in their churches and their schools and let them know about Piney Wood and let them know that they wanted to help the child who was in need. They didn't ask for money. They would take commodities or anything. But if a child was in need, they would take him. And you didn't have to pay anything because I got there without any money.
That was the case for me also.
I think Piney Woods met a particular need, like she says there, that those who had no money, which was I was one of those. And they did another great thing because there you met somebody you usually clung to. For instance, I met her there, my wife.
That's it.
And then I think one of the other greatest things, he said he didn't want a finishing school. He wanted a school who would help the kid to find himself. He said there were plenty other places they could go to finish. And so it helped my son. My son is now a very successful doctor and surgeon, and one is superintendent of one of 4 plants, and the other has just finished his term with 20 years in the Air Force. So I think they, even though sometimes they don't like to admit it, but they got from Piney Woods a little push that they wouldn't have gotten if they'd been in the city. Now, I don't mean that all city boys don't go on and do things
Right,
too.
I understand that.
But you see, my boys had no background except Piney Woods, because I hadn't done it.
Mhm.
There had to be this. There had to be this little bit of encouragement from Piney Woods School.
Mhm. Now, what about some of the traditions at Piney Woods School that you think are significant? Some that that meant a lot to you when you were there. Traditions of Piney Woods.
The tradition of being on time meant the most to me, I think. We have we've been, there's a blight on us about being never being on time. So.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of thing has always been with me. And when I went on the road to sing, I recall I never wanted to be late because it had been sort of drilled in. And then the other thing is that to get along with people, I think that's one of the other great things that stays with me from Piney Woods.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Mrs. Ross?
Traditions. Well, I remember a quotation that always stuck with me too. One was, prepare yourself, get ready, your chance will come. And that was one of the things that I kept before my sons. I chose to stay at Piney Woods after my husband went away to work for U.S. Steel. And those were the things that I would keep before my boys. Get ready, prepare yourself, be ready. Regardless of what someone else did. We had to just build up our background because we didn't have it. And I tried to keep that before all of the younger people that I came in contact with there that would grumble. We had all kinds of quotations around, let down your bucket where you are, and so forth. And those things stuck with me because I know I hadn't had an opportunity, but I did want to see the youth that was coming on grasp and make use of this, because I always felt that a time would come when he could use his education, although there wasn't anything open, and it did, because I believe if I hadn't have kept those things, our boys, I know, wouldn't have gotten as far as they did, and I gave Piney Woods the credit. For these old traditions, some we say, well, that's old-timey, but those things still, it's not who you are, but what you are. And I think sometime now that our youth harbor too much on black is beautiful instead of trying to get it in his head. And those are the things that stuck with me because they really tried to teach us a moral standard. And you just don't forget sometimes those things.
Then you don't want to forget that Piney Woods always said to be in the place you should be at the time you should be in that place.
Right.
And
You wouldn't get in trouble.
you don't get in trouble that way. If somebody knows where you're supposed to be, they can vouch for it. And, it's like one boy went with me on the Great Lakes, and he was going to go uptown in Chicago, and I said, George, you better take a pass. He said, what's the pass for? I said, well, you can get out the gate, but you can't get back without the pass. He said, I thought I was through with that at Piney Woods. I said, no, they were trying to get you ready for outside here, and you just didn't understand it. So a lot of things like that, those kind of traditions, they bring to Piney Woods the whole concept of living outside.
Mhm.
if you would just be able to see it.
Right.
We object to a lot of this.
Yeah, when you're going through it,
Yeah.
or getting these things. So that I think you would say that these types of traditions have a great value and should be maintained
They
at
should be
Piney Woods
maintained.
and at other places also. Now, I don't know how much you know about Dr. Jones' relationship with other educational endeavors or institutions in the
No,
state
I
of
don't.
Mississippi. Would you have any observations, Mrs. Ross? I know you mentioned about the School of the Blind, and I think it had its origins at Piney Woods. I mean, the School of the Blind for black people.
Well, I know
Had its
that
origin.
Dr. Jones, when he came to Mississippi, he was connected with Utica. Of course, he first went to Tuskegee and found, and then he was connected with Utica. And he and Dr. Holdsclaw were very good friends. And also Dr. Johnson, the three schools kind of worked kind of together. But Dr. Jones seemed to have had a greater outlook on life. He had his school more at heart than the others. He wasn't selfish. He didn't put the money on himself. All of his money went into the school to build his school. He didn't even pay himself a salary. He didn't buy fine clothes, cars, things like that. Everything he had. And I think that is one of the reasons that Piney Woods succeeded over the others, although he worked very closely, I know, with Utica.
Yes, ma'am.
I think he had a pretty good relationship with schools, except that he never got into the state schools because of the amount of politics that's in it. He never wanted to get into politics. He said, as long as you can stay out of that, you get along all right. So I think that was the only reason it seemingly that he was not interested in public schools. Because public schools is a political football, as you know.
I'm learning.
Yeah. So I think his not a hands-off thing there, but it is a thing where he wanted or needed to be asked in order to give any. Now I think Dr. Eason used to be head of the black schools in Mississippi. He used to consult him more than anybody else on black schools. So I think he had a close contact, but indirectly, so that it didn't include, I mean, it didn't cause him to be involved in politics or anything like that. So he's a very shrewd man, and he works indirectly on a lot of things like that and gets what he wants.
That's right. And he certainly has been successful. Well, are there any other points that you think I think we, although I haven't asked the questions directly, we have covered most of the things that I wanted to ask you. Now, are there any other types of things you want to? Mrs. Ross, do you have any other points you want to elaborate on there?
I've covered most of
Yeah,
it.
that's the question I wanted to do.
Yes, sir. Well, I want
Well, I've been associated with you, say, since 1923.
1923.
I
And you
went there in
there
1923.
1923. And so you met in 1923 and have lived together since. I think that's beautiful.
We've been 44 years together.
And so Piney Woods has really been significant in your
Yes,
life.
it
You
is.
say in some
It
ways.
is.
No.
And
Well,
the stepping stones for our success. We can never forget Piney Woods because, and for Piney Woods, we don't know where either one of us would have been. In fact, we wouldn't have met. I'm sure.
well, I want to thank you for talking with us and sharing your experiences about Piney Woods.
Do something out of it.
Yes, sir. I think you will.